You know, in this training that I'm about to share with you, I'm so absolutely passionate about it. I hope this training really takes root with you, because this is a training that absolutely changed my life completely. It started back in 2005, and I had a paradigm shift. And one of the greatest stories that I've ever heard that relates to what a paradigm shift is was done in a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the author Stephen Covey. And in this book, he begins to articulate what is a paradigm shift. He said that he was sitting on a subway in a large metropolitan area. The subway comes to a stop. This gentleman gets on the subway, had 5 children with him. He sits down on the subway directly next to him and buries his head in his hands. Meanwhile, this gentleman's 5 children start running back and forth on the subway. They were spinning around the poles. They were jumping up and down on the back of the chairs. And after about 20 minutes of this, Stephen Covey turns to the gentleman and he says, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind doing something with your children? They're being disruptive." The gentleman lifts his head up from his hands and he turns to Stephen Covey and he says, "I'm sorry. I suppose I probably should. But we just left the hospital about an hour ago and their mother died. And I guess they don't know how to handle it. And quite frankly, I don't know how to handle it either." That, my friends, is a paradigm shift. And you probably just experienced that. You see, perception is not reality. It's just the way that you perceive it to be. So one of the greatest statements that have changed my life more than anything else was in Romans 12:2. It said, "In order to be transformed, it takes place by the renewing of your mind." And when I first seen that, I was so excited. You know, I said, finally, something that literally shares with me where transformation comes from. You know, I was at a low point in my life and I experienced a paradigm shift. It was monumental in my life. And when I read that article, I thought, that is amazing. But how do you do it? What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What's step 4? What's step 5? What is the process and how do I begin to immerse myself into that process? So as I begin to do the research, I believe that I found it. See, what I begin to discover as I begin to renew my mind is how my mind actually worked and how your mind works. And this is what I begin to realize, that the average person has between 40 to 60,000 thoughts a day. Mind-boggling on itself. You know, how can anybody have that type of thoughts? That many thoughts. And what I began to realize and discover was that your thoughts, the things you think about every single day, is what controls your emotions. So if I had somebody walk in the room right now and they slam the door, threw the briefcase down, I wouldn't have to ask them what's going on. Their emotions was a window to the things that they're thinking about. And vice versa, if they walk in and they're high-fiving and they're smiling and they're cheerful, I don't have to ask them neither. So what I begin to realize is your thoughts control your emotions. Huge paradigm shift in my life. And then I begin to realize that specific thoughts you'll begin to visualize and contemplate over and over and over again. And those thoughts, well, those thoughts are where your dreams come from. And I ask people, you know, I wrote a book, and in this book we begin to ask people one specific question. We say, what are your dreams? And it was amazing to me that most people can't tell us what their dreams are. You know, people would say stuff like this. They would say, I used to want to be a doctor. Well, what happened? Well, I got married, I had kids, life kind of got in the way, and it just didn't work out. Or I used to want to be an actor, or I used to want to be a singer, or I want to be a dancer, or I want to be an architect. And time after time after time, people begin to try to rationalize why that didn't come to fruition. And I begin to realize that your dreams are nothing more than a thought that comes back to you over and over and over again. But your dreams have to be more than just a thought. The hardest work in the world has to do with focusing daily on these dreams. Earl Nightingale perhaps said it best. He said, the human mind is like a farmer's field. I can take a field and I can plant corn in that field. And I could water it, nurture it, take care of the land, and the farm will return in massive abundance corn. I can take the exact same land, I can dig a hole and plant nightshade, a deadly poison, and that farm will return in massive abundance nightshade. See, the question is, what are you planting into your mind? What are your dreams? And how do I nurture it? And how do I take care of it and make those things come to fruition? Well, here's a key that I found. Your dreams can't just be this two-dimensional object that you hang on the refrigerator periodically and you pass by 3 or 4 times a day and you periodically think about it. It has to be something that you constantly put here and that you see it. You see the end result. You focus on the end result, and that's always where you're at. The most difficult work in the world is to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes a day with the end result, constantly focusing on the end result. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just focus on the end result. And then once you have that dream and you begin to visualize who's there, how it took place, then you can understand the power of the words that you speak. When I begin to realize the words that I spoke created my future, that when I spoke good, positive, constructive words, great things begin to manifest. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. What's in your heart today? What are the dreams that are in your heart today? How are you going to make those things manifest? Well, it always takes place with action. I'll share with you a quick story. In 2005, I was out of weight. I was out of shape. I needed to make a shift in my life. So I entered into this competition. It was called the Trim Spa $1 Million Makeover Challenge. And in 2005, I headed down this road to try to make a massive transformation. And what I began to do is I began to realize this system, the 40, 60,000 thoughts, to begin to visualize and contemplate every day. And I began to daydream about, standing on stage and having this big check come out and them introducing us as the winner, and my wife sitting there and the audience and the flashes of the crowd and the film crews that were filming us. And I can promise you one thing. When we won that, it went down exactly like I had visualized it, how I dreamt about it. I used to go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. and I'd begin to ride the bike for an hour. And the first thing that I began to do is I would set the bike on level 8 on the random cycle. And what I began to share is that the pain, my legs would swell up, the sweat would begin to start rolling off my head. And I began to realize, this hurts. Turn that thing down. You see, as soon as you encounter pain or things don't go exactly the way you think, people automatically want to flash back to what they're familiar with. And let me tell you something, familiarity breeds contempt. You've heard that before? So what I do is I just close my eyes and I begin to visualize that dream that I was sharing with you a few moments ago. And as I went there, I immersed myself into that for an hour a day. And I would look up and I would hear this deep, 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 deep. And my hour was up. And I began to realize that the time I spent every day in prayer and visualizing my dream was more significant to me than the calories that I was actually burning. It became a staple, if you will, of what the future could become. And it's something that I do every single day. And then the power of the words that I spoke, I began to share with people what was going to take place, how things were actually going to take place. But once you understand the power of your words, you can understand how when people say, I'm not good at this, I could never do this, what that does to you. You can understand how it creates that future for you. And then the people that say, I can do this. I'm going to make things take place. I'm going to leave a legacy in my life. I'm not going to meander in a world of mediocrity or ponder in a world of popularity. I'm going to do something significant for me, for my family. I want to leave a legacy. Well, that's when the final part of this equation comes in, which is action. You've got to go do something. See, I begin to realize that a dream without action was nothing more than just a thought. That's all it was just a thought. And most people don't have dreams, they have thoughts. Until you put action with your dreams, it's nothing more than a thought. So if you take this equation and you draw a line right down through the center of it, what I begin to realize is that there's a left side of this equation and there's a right side of this equation. See, the question always comes back to what thoughts are you plugging into that equation? The 40, 60,000 thoughts, what thoughts are they? Are they negative thoughts? Are they good thoughts? So I read a phenomenal book by John Eldredge. And he said, the largest discovery I've ever made in my entire life was to understand that my thoughts will deceive me at every turn in the road. My friends, if you can learn how to take the thoughts that come into your mind, to hold those thoughts in captivity, and ask yourself a fundamental question. Will these thoughts propel me to my dreams, or will they stop them from taking place? And when you can get to the point where you can begin to control, to take those thoughts into captivity and either dismiss them or accept them, you're on the road to success. So on the right side of this equation, we're going to say everything that's good, it's holy, it's pleasing, it's motivating, it's inspiring. These are the things that change people's lives. And then on the left side, these are negative thoughts. These are frustration, these are aggravation, these are all the negative thoughts that slow you down, slow down process. You see, the right side is the side of multiplication and the left side is the side of division. The key for you is to identify that dream and to begin to build a team and get your entire team to the right side. Live there, stay there, dream there, keep your team there. My friends, if you can begin to get to the right side, every leadership book I've ever read, every training manual, everything that revolves around success has something to do with getting you, yourself, and your team to the right side. But how can you get your team to the right side of this equation if you can't get yourself there? Self-mastery is the beginning of success. Your ability to take these lessons that you learn and get people to listen to you and to pass on that information. How can you ever begin to lead somebody if you don't gather the information, the personal development? There's an old saying that says that leaders are readers. Begin to interpret other people's mistakes, lessons that people's learned. Read the books. Understand what it is that they've learned. Begin to develop yourself. Pass that knowledge on to your team. Get to the right side. Stay on the right side. Live on the right side. And I will definitely see you at the top, my friends. God bless you.